Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you are doing well. And today I wanted to address a pretty, at least for me, significant and slightly jaw-dropping announcement that I caught on social media. And that is the legendary experimental band Xiu Xiu will be removing their catalog from the Spotify platform. I saw this announced through their Instagram page where they just basically let their audience know what was going to happen. It's a decision that was clearly influenced by recent news that came out about Spotify and its CEO, Daniel Ek, investing millions and millions of dollars into deadly military tech. In fact, he seems focused on ingraining himself in this industry more than he does the music industry right now. And so I wanted to invite the band's main brain, Jamie Stewart, on to essentially discuss this decision. And here it is, my conversation with Jamie about this Xiu Xiu Spotify music removal. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that you guys are not, the only seminal band from the indie scene to do and announce the same. Recently, Deerhoof made a similar move as well. I mean, obviously, you guys have collaborated over the years too, so, shout out to them as well for this conversation. What sort of drove you personally to make this a pretty huge change that, despite all the negative headlines and discourse we've been seeing around Spotify in recent years, most musicians have just not really been able to be willing to make the same jump that you guys have just taken.
We've wanted to for a long time. I mean, I've never been a fan of streaming. It devalues music generally. I mean, it makes music disposable. And we talked to our various labels and tried to get off Spotify a few years ago, and no one really wanted to do it. I mean, the reason for us at the time was just we thought that they just treated bands badly. But when the announcement came that this Spotify head Daniel Ek was using Spotify funds to directly invest in AI war murder drones. There was just, it was no conceivable way that we could be involved in something like that.
And now he's on the board of that company too. He's on the board.
Yeah. I mean,
well.
They're using money that they have essentially, for all intents and purposes, stolen from almost every band in the entire world to murder people to make more money. Us being off of Spotify is not going to make any real financial impact for them. It really has more to do with our conscience, and hopefully for the small number of people interested in Xiu Xiu, possibly to encourage them not to, just to be aware of this issue and not to, in some small way, fund the murder of what will undoubtedly be brown people all over the world. So a small number of white billionaires can make some more money.
Right. You said a few years ago, and obviously, not trying to necessarily point anybody specifically out or anything like that. And you guys have worked with a lot of different people and organizations over the years to release your music. But you talked about, recently wanting to and expressing interest in kind of removing your catalog from the Spotify platform, but kind of seeing some pushback in resistance to that. Was this recent news kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back that made you guys able to be like, hey, listen, this kind of seems like too big a deal?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, the pushback we got from our labels, they were just like, yeah, it sucks, but, it's just, bands lost. Bands lost the fight against streaming for a brief period. We thought, oh, maybe we could fight against streaming, but we can't. Technology and, the shitty platform won. There's nothing we can do about it. Whatever, fuck it, I don't think about it anymore. I just make music. I accept that we lost this battle. But when the battle is a literal battle that has to do with murdering people, our labels were just like, yes, it is completely fine not to be involved in this. We don't want to be involved in this. It's easier for bands to do it than it is for labels to do it. But we have, other than just, there's some technical aspects that we've been trying to do it for about as soon as the announcement came up, but there's some technical BS that's taking a little bit longer, which is the reason why we announced it today. Was we've been reposting things about it a lot, and especially the things that Deerhoof have been doing, and people have been saying, okay, you're talking about it, when are you going to do it? We just wanted to say we're working on it, we're trying to do it, just to let people know that we are aware of this. We're not just making some sort of empty platitudes. We're in the process of doing it. It's taking longer than we want. It should be sorted out, hopefully, by the beginning of next week.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody who's not in the know, like, are there any difficulties associated with that due to the fact that just the up until this point, the Xiu Xiu discography has grown to be so massive and so sprawling?
It's mostly that. It's mostly that it's spread. It's spread out between. We have three main labels, but there's also smaller ones. I think it's not going to be possible for us to get some of the smaller records off. I don't know who even owns them. I don't know how they got there. We certainly have nothing to do with them being on there. Like we have a record called The Creep Show that's on what was forever a tiny label called States' Rights that's been gone since 2012. I don't even know who I would talk to about that. So we might, some very, very small records we may not be able to get off there, but our main full releases, it's just kind of coordinating between everybody. Also stuff like that is just a hassle, but everybody's working on it.
What do you feel like this change may sort of entail for the band going forward from here? I mean, we hear from groups with your experience that the payouts and the financial sort of like impact of this is probably going to be pretty small. But in your experience over the past 10 plus years, has Spotify been at all vital in terms of, at the very least, spreading word about the band or making people aware of them?
To tell you the truth, we've made a not insignificant amount of money from Spotify, kind of to my horror. It's gonna, I mean, I'm not gonna like be houseless because of it, but for us, it's actually we're losing a fair amount of money by doing it. But I mean, there's no amount of money that would make us want to participate in a company that was actively just trying to murder people with robots. But also whatever. I mean, things. We're not a big enough band that we can just sort of count on things being fine all the time. Sometimes things go well, sometimes they go poorly, and we're just very frugal with our money regardless. So that we know we'll be making less money for this is something we've dealt with many, many times before. Other than that, like I said, when bands lost streaming, we just said, okay, fuck it. We'll just make records we can't think about anymore. It's kind of the same thing. We're just going to make the best records we can possibly make, play the best shows we can possibly make. There'll be some other fucking annoying technology to have to deal with at some point. We will press on and just do the best we can.
You talk a little bit about some of the discourse that was happening around you guys and engaging with what Deerhoof did. Obviously the same with the removal of their music from the platform. Has this also been responded to in any way from, behind the scenes, your peers saying, I'm kind of considering doing the same thing? Do you feel like, there could potentially be a domino effect in the coming months or anything?
I really hope so. I mean, it's none of my business how people choose to promote or not promote their music. I hope that peers that we have choose to remove themselves from this. But it's for us, it was a very easy decision. This kind of a thing has always been an easy decision for us. For other people, it's not. There's a million reasons why it is or it isn't. I do very, very, very much. I mean, the thing I really hope is that people stop subscribing, and we might have a minuscule impact on that. I hope that we, I hope that we do. But I hope as this kind of things as people begin to think about this more and more, that maybe bands that could actually have a big impact will take their music off of it, and then perhaps a significant number of people could remove their subscriptions from the platform. I really don't have a lot of hope about it really negatively affecting Spotify or any actions that they take. It really just has more to do with our own. Music, this is going to make me sound very, very, very corny. Music is, and there's no other word for it, sacred to us. We don't want it to be shit on by warmongering billionaires.
And, at this point, obviously you're not like subject to the specific legalese in the contracts and contractual obligations of every musician out there, obviously. But at this point, do you feel like what's kind of keeping maybe some other people from making the same decision? Is it more of a personal choice, or are there a lot of musicians from what you know or understand, like, who are like locked into these sort of agreements where they have to be on Spotify because their label wants them to be there, essentially? Like, you guys are in a position where you kind of like have the leeway to say to your label, we would prefer for it to be this way?
Very, very fortunately for us, the labels that we work on are genuinely independent and have always had a political bent. I mean, we're on Kill Rock Stars, Polyvinyl, and Graveface, are the main labels that we work with. We're really, really lucky in that regard. It may have as much to do with the distributors that labels have. There may be labels who want to remove their entire catalog for it, from Spotify, but their distributors won't allow them to. I'm sure that for every band and for every label, there is a tremendous amount of legal complication to do it. We're in a fortunate position where we're not, where that doesn't impact us, but I'm sure it does for a lot of medium to bigger bands.
And kind of looking forward from this point in a more broad sense, I do kind of like, understand the validity behind what you're saying in terms of like bands losing and so on and so forth. And, much of the ground gained or lost in kind of like the streaming battle being set in stone at this point. But in your view, is, this due to just because of a general devaluation because that you were kind of alluding to earlier because there's just so much music out there, or is the money that's being generated just not going to the artists? Because as we're seeing with Daniel, it seems like a lot of people are making money. The labels are making more money than ever. The execs are making more money than ever. The stocks are going crazy. There are certain artists who certainly seem to benefit very much off of this model. But then there's kind of like almost this separated lower class of musician who is kind of like essentially cut out of the success that everyone else seems to be seeing, who's kind of rising toward the top.
I think it's both of those things. I think the financial issue is a little bit different than the musical issue. The financial issue is exactly that. All of the streaming platforms pay a remarkable pittance for the number of plays. When I said that we make like an actual, not a kind of a decent amount of money from Spotify, even then when I think about like if they even paid 1 penny, like we would make literally like 50 times more, for 1 penny for play. So bands lost because of the financial aspect of it. When we started, the amount of money that you make selling physical records is exponentially more than the amount of money you make from streaming. And that happens a little bit now, but not that much. So there's that financial aspect of it. The other way that bands and music fans lost is that because streaming is more or less free, you have access to everything. There's just but significantly less focus on actually listening to and loving music. If you can listen to anything you want all of the time for free, if something is uninteresting to you after 3 seconds, you don't give it any attention. Music, interesting, in-depth, curious, challenging music takes time to focus on. Music has definitely not gotten better, and I'm saying this as a music fan since I was a child, since streaming happened. Streaming doesn't make music better. Streaming makes music it makes music have to be a commercial in order for it to potentially grab somebody's attention. If something is not meaningful to you, if you don't have to focus on it, then it can't. This again is so corny, but it can't touch your heart. You cannot get what music can possibly give you if you can just zap through it, if it doesn't require you to focus on it because it doesn't have any value. You didn't have to go get it. It was handed to you for free. 9 trillion songs were handed to you for free. And it's overwhelming. There's nothing like you can't love something like that. And it can't affect your life in the way that music has the capability to do. I know this is corny. Sorry.
No. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. If anybody thinks it's corny, it's probably some guy who's much more corny than either of us in chat or something. I don't know. I guess the last thing I'll say is, and maybe this is more of a statement than a question that you could put your own 2 cents in on, but I'm starting to feel like streaming platforms are sort of like creating a musical and a media homogenization that is like that of the radio monopolies of the late 90s and the 2000s, and it's making it more difficult to be exposed to anything that's like of any emotional or intellectual substance or significance, which, obviously greatly informed kind of like the way the underground operated at the time, with kind of the necessity for this network of smaller labels and pipelines through which artists could actually sort of get their art out there who weren't actually able to, function in the mainstream radio market of the day. Do you foresee potentially in indie or an underground movement in the future that sort of like sees its I guess like opportunities outside of the Spotify space entirely because it just becomes too hostile of an environment to actually promote or share your music through?
I genuinely hope so. I mean, the 90s were an interesting time. I mean, like college radio was remarkable and a
Right.
reaction exactly to AOR radio. I really hope that something like that happens. I mean, it's just a matter of, as an individual, as a music fan, and as someone who's trying to be ethical in the world, you have to make a decision. Um, Music is, if you own 10 CDs, you can really devote yourself to those 10 CDs and really get a lot of focus out of them. It is so much more meaningful to focus on something and really devote yourself to something, than having 20 billion songs that are just uningestible. There's no way to do that. And it's, becoming involved with something as unethical and genuinely, at this, I mean, there's no other word to use it. I mean to use other than like, Daniel Ek is doing something evil. Involving yourself in doing something evil is there's it takes an individual decision not to be involved in that, and to choose to be a music fan in another way.
And there you have it, Jamie, with their reasoning behind the Xiu Xiu Spotify music removal. Of course, down in the description, we will link you to places where you can find the band's music elsewhere. Deerhoof, too. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this, and you are the best. See you in the next one. Anthony Fantano, Spotify, music removals forever.